Welcome. It is Friday. It is puck time. We are back after a almost 2 week break for the Four Nations face off. And if you guys were watching hockey yesterday, it showed you why clearly, other than the NFL, this is the best sport to watch. Um, just gripping game 2-2. And I'm going to bring in the Prez because he is just motioning. Andrew's traveling back. Andrew was at the game last night with his dad. Had fabulous seats. Personally, if I had bought those tickets for the price that Andrew bought them at early on before the Four Nations started, and then saw what the prices were going for, Prez, $1,200 a ticket. Where Andrew was sitting, I think it was as high as 1,500. I may have sold my tickets and taken the money and just watched the game at a local bar, but you don't travel to Boston from Nova Scotia to watch a game in a bar. You could do that at home. But great experience for Andrew and a great experience for you. Go Team Canada. Connor McDavid does it in overtime in a game that all game long, Prez, I tweeted out first period, second period, this game needs to go to overtime. This game needs to go to overtime because if you're even a casual fan of the NHL and hockey in general, there is nothing like an NHL game where
Oh,
a
yes, there
golden
is.
goal decides everything. So, yes, tell me what it is, Prez.
According to you, the NFL is better to watch than hockey. Whoa. Dan, I don't know if I want to. I don't want to do this show anymore, dude. There's 12 minutes of action in a 3-hour NFL game. 12 minutes. You know how I know that? Because I have because I have an uncle. Dan gets that joke.
Had I known my statement would make you want to leave this show that quickly, I would have made it at the beginning of the season and not after the 55 game mark of the. But come on, guys, what a game! The much maligned during this Four Nations, Jordan Binnington that they talked about would probably be the weak link for Canada in the OT, saves on Austin Matthews. There was a cut, 2 or 3 at least shots that should have gone in the net. The USA could have and should have won if Binnington was the weak link. But man, this guy in Boston in must-win games showed his true colors. He's a very good goalie. He did it in Boston with St. Louis, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, going into Boston and winning that game. So with that said, Prez, any final thoughts on the Four Nations? Because the Olympics next year are going to be totally lit. I'm going to use that word. Yes, an old guy using the word lit.
Fire.
Next year, in Milan, Italy, the Olympics are going to be with NHL players. It's just like this tournament, but much better. I think it's going to be much better for sure because we're including pretty much everyone in the Olympics. So, final thoughts on this tournament?
Well, listen, I was not for this tournament when it happened. I still don't ultimately care. With that said, it was amazing fun to watch. The hockey was excellent. Last Saturday's hockey game was much better than last night's game. I understand last night's game had more drama and it ended up going to overtime, but it was a very sloppy game. Defensively, not the finest. With that said, the one great thing about hockey, amongst 100 other great things, is that, and Dan and I spoke about this on the phone last night. Yes, Dan and I, we have a phone relationship. Boom. Anyway, every Game 7, it's always like overtime, sudden death, 3-2, 2-1. They never have, a team with one loss all year not show up for the Super Bowl game. They never have that. They never have Denver winning 45-3. It's always gripping, dramatic, intense, close scores, and I got to tell you, if anyone thinks there's a better sport to watch than hockey, man, they got to go see somebody, Carm. I mean, there are cures for that. Cowbell, I suggest. But like in all seriousness, you got to check yourself in somewhere. I mean, if you think at a basketball, oh my god, oh my god.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, LeBron James bruised his finger on the remote control, switching back between that and the news. But with that said, load management doesn't exist for the most part in the NHL, and I don't think we're ever going to see it. But it brings up one final point, uh, and that is, going into this tournament, I felt the exact same way. I didn't want to see players get injured and then that being a determining factor to their teams for the last 25 games of the regular season. And what happens? Charlie McAvoy obviously gets injured, but last night, Lawrence, and he was injured. He sat out the final game, USA versus Sweden, but he was injured, I believe, in the Canada game, and that's Matthew Tkachuk, and he played about 7 minutes yesterday. Halfway through the second period, he could not play anymore, and he told his team and told his trainers, "I can't play anymore. I can't play the third," but sat on the bench cheering for the team. And here's a guy who's lost, and hopefully not long term for this
Yes,
Florida
hopefully.
Panthers team.
I'm good with long term. I'm good with him coming back next season. I'm okay with that. So yeah, with that said, you missed the biggest miss. Quinn Hughes did not play for Team America either. So without Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy, you're talking about their second and third best defensive pair. With that said, Carm, I did not play for Canada. You did not play for Canada. So ultimately it washes, dude. It's a wash.
All right, it's a wash, but a great one. There's a lot of chatter about it, and we're not going to bring politics into it.
Just out of
I'm glad.
curiosity,
No, we're not. We're not going to bring
no politics.
politics into it because it doesn't belong in sport in general. But I think that has a lot to do with the booing of like the national anthems that happened in Montreal, and there was some of it that happened during the game. I think the Bruins and the telecast did a much better job of blaring the music than they did of the fans. But even that Canadian national anthem um, was brutally done, brutally performed. We don't need national anthems at sporting events, anyways.
Well, that's for damn sure. Carmen, do you know anybody who predicted a 3-2 Canada win in overtime?
Yes, that would be you. Driving to meet my friends to watch the game yesterday, I called you, and you did say that you recorded a video clip, which I'm sure you tweeted out, and I'm not sure if we have it for today's show, but I'm sure you'll show it on Wager Talk today. But you predicted 2-2 going to overtime. I told you my prediction was 3-3 going overtime, and that's mainly because I gave out a free play on the over at Wager Talk, so over 5.5. So I would have preferred to have seen 3-3, and it looked good when it was 2-2 after two periods of play. So with that said, the game stayed under the total. It was juiced to the under. Canada wins it in OT in a game that could have gone either way. These two hockey nations are the best two, I believe, and I get it. There's going to be people that say, well, Russia's not allowed into tournaments, or there's better teams, or Finland was decimated. But at the end of the day, Canada and U.S. is what everyone wanted to see last night, and that's what we saw. With that said, Prez, we have three games on today's card. The 6 and 60 returns, where we will look at six. I will look at six early lines that I like in the NHL. But we're going to discuss three games for tomorrow: Washington and Pittsburgh, Dallas, New Jersey, and Carolina, and the Prez's much beloved Toronto Maple Leafs. And with that said, Prez, I'm going to throw to you to give me your thoughts on Washington and Pittsburgh.
Okay, Carm, well, thank you. So, firstly, what I want to do is talk about tomorrow conceptually, and tomorrow and Sunday. And I'm going to tell everybody play carefully. Firstly, we've got a lot of guys that are off of a long break. I do believe that's going to lend itself to more overs than unders. I think the hockey tomorrow will be less intense than normal. I think people will have solid legs, but the defensive system will have broken down slightly given that they haven't played in close to 2 weeks. So conceptually, tread carefully. And if you're undecided on a total, go to the over and not the under. Now, with that said, you want me to speak about Pittsburgh and Washington. Look, there are games tomorrow. Edmonton, Pittsburgh game. Colorado's playing tomorrow. Florida's playing the Leafs, where a lot of the players were in last night's hockey game. And that, to me, is a crucial component to this handicap. Sidney Crosby just literally played Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and won. I'm expecting him to have an emotional drop coming into the game against Washington. Washington, however, did not have any superstar players playing yesterday that had the weight of a country on their shoulder. This is a bad spot for Pittsburgh and a good spot for Washington. I would take Washington in regulation here, but this is a very soft lean because I do think that with the break happening, I do think teams with veteran leadership like Pittsburgh are going to try to reset. And in doing that, could come out flying. I don't like the spot for Pittsburgh. I think that it's the right spot for Washington, but I am concerned. I lean on Washington in regulation, but I really have nothing definitive.
And so I'm going to talk about this one, President, and I want your feedback on this. I think Washington's the right spot here. Now, whether we get priced out of it or not, because it's gone from like 140 to 160 now, is a question, which brings in sort of the regulation one. But you look at Washington, and they're having the type of season that Boston had a couple of years ago. That it was a President's Trophy winning season. They finished with like 130 plus points, and everyone kept waiting, and myself included, for the Boston Bruins to just regress. And it's not happening with Washington. 80 points thus far in the season, plus 56 goal differential. Last year, they made it into the playoffs with a minus 40 goal differential. And Pittsburgh's at the other end of the spectrum, a minus 37 goal differential near the bottom of the standings. And you can say they're still within shooting distance of the playoffs. But here's my question to you, Prez, because I like Washington in a spot. But with Pittsburgh, do you think this is Pittsburgh's next 10 games that the Penguins become a seller at the trade deadline? Their next 10 games, Washington tomorrow night, the New York Rangers. They play Philadelphia in a back-to-back. And I know Philadelphia is second from the bottom, but they always give the Penguins a tough time. Then they play Boston, Toronto, Colorado, Vegas, Minnesota, and Vegas. That is a tough 10 games for Pittsburgh, and they can find themselves clearly on the outside looking in. Do you then, because we're into March, look to move some of these contracts in these 3-team deals where you have to give up some draft picks as well too, and clear some of the money, even with that cap space going up next year?
Carm, I mean, you could have asked me this question last year. You could have asked me this question the year before. I don't understand this Pittsburgh team. This team is so badly mismanaged, but rightfully so. Kyle Dubas is an idiot. I mean, this team goes and gets Erik Karlsson for no reason. They let Getzel go. They signed Malkin and Crosby because they're legacy players. I don't even know who they're going to get rid of. Crosby's going nowhere. Malkin's not going to fetch some big price. Maybe they eat Karlsson's contract and let him trade him. This team is a mess, like a total mess. So I I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a long, long time before Pittsburgh finds any happiness in watching their hockey team. I think they are going to be sellers, but they have a goalie they can't move. Their captain won't move. Um, I'm curious to see how this team plays out, but this is a bet against team moving forward. And I also will be looking to play a little bit more overs with Pittsburgh as well.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree with the taking, you're looking at them. When you talked about, looking at overs more than unders, I'm curious to see tomorrow. And the games are spread out. There's early games, there's games mid-afternoon. There's only 2 night games. So the NHL has done a great job of covering, sort of having coverage from early lunchtime right through to midnight games pretty much on the hour. So that'll be good. But I'm curious to see how the first period overs go, because teams, are they going to be tight? Ready to play a 200-foot game. And we're going to talk about the 200-foot game later on. But it's going to be one of those ones where you start looking at first period overs and you just kind of hit those, because the prices that I've seen are in the -1, anywhere from -120 and -140 range. There aren't a lot of big ones. And the biggest one is another one that we'll talk about later on when I do my show free play. But all right, let's move on to the second one, because we had a couple of good teams here. Prez, Dallas and New Jersey. I'm going to make mine short on this one. The Devils are 4-8-15 at home in the opening 20 minutes, -10.7 units on the season. They are the third worst team at home in the opening 20 minutes. But here's the surprising thing: is the 2 teams in front of them, the Colorado Avalanche and the Edmonton Oilers. And that just, they start slowly, but the Devils are one of the best second period teams in the NHL, as would be Colorado and Edmonton, given their records. Dallas 9-7-11 away on the road to the first period money line, 4-2-4 their last 10, which has been profitable for them. I am taking Dallas money line first period as my play in this one, and look for these trends to continue. How are you looking at this one?
Quite amazing, Carm. Who won Dallas? One of the best teams in all of hockey played last night. Really remarkable. I mean, they couldn't find any place for guys like Jamie Benn or really anybody on this Dallas team. And I think Dallas is going to come into this game pretty peeved and ready to go. I like that pick of Dallas first period. With that said, I mean, this is a game that is really, really tough to handicap. Initially my gut reaction was take the over in this game, especially given that both these teams are very well rested. But you look at this and you're like, man, Dallas is 19-30-6 to the under. New Jersey is 19-36-2 to the under. So both of these teams are stone cold unders. Honestly, I don't really have a bet here. My gut was to take the over. The stats say to take the under. And I gotta believe that Dallas is going to come into this game flying. So I'm with you, dude. The only bet that I could come up with is a first period bet on the Stars.
Sorry. All right.
Hello?
I'm good with that one. I'm looking at some of the chat. The chat is mixed, a little mixed on the thoughts of the Four Nations. One guy said, you couldn't have been more wrong on the Four Nations.
Who's
Isn't
you?
it just right or wrong? Myself and
But
Buster,
who's
he said
you?
that we couldn't have been.
Oh.
But the problem is you couldn't have been more wrong. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
No.
Is there a
You
more
are
wrong? It's like when
you
people say this guy is going
you
to
are
give
wronger.
110%. It's physically impossible to give 110%. You give your most, which is 100%. But apparently, free thinker isn't thinking freely, but because he would have come up with a
So
much better insult than that one. But my point of the Four Nations was always, just getting back to that, having a tournament in the middle, regardless of what happened yesterday. Let's say yesterday's game was Sweden and Finland. Would anyone have watched that game in North America? unless they're from
No.
Sweden or Finland. Probably not, or unless they're a degenerate gambler. It worked out that it was Canada and U.S. in the finals, and it was an epic one at that. But let's see what happens with some of the injuries that came out of this tournament, and see if the fans of those teams feel the same way about it. If you're a Florida Panthers fan and your team did not win the Four Nations tournament, and you lose one of your best players in Matthew
And
Tkachuk,
Vegas.
long term, let's see how you feel about it. You might not agree, and might agree with my point of not having these tournaments. The Olympics are a completely different beast, and I'm looking forward to that one. Speaking of beasts, your team. Yes, your team, Prez, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner played in the Four Nations tournament, played last night. I want to get your thoughts on what you thought about both those players in the Four Nations. And they play the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm leaning Canes in this one. I'm going to go first on this one and then give it to you, because I don't think coming out of the break, the Leafs, especially with two of their best players having played, as you mentioned, on
I agree.
Thursday night, that they might not be ready for a tough 200-foot game against a Carolina team that is going to make a serious second half run. They want to win that conference, or sorry, that the Metro Division. Washington doesn't seem to be losing many games right now, but this is a very good Canes team, and they went into a break with a 7-3 win over Utah. So we'll see how they come out of the break, but it might be a tough spot for the Leafs, who lost 6-3 in their only prior meeting. I'm taking the Canes at a short -120 on the road. Always tough to bet against the Leafs at home, especially where they've been good this season. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, Carm, real quick, you asked me what my thoughts are on the two Leafs that played last night. I thought Marner and Matthews, I mean, they were involved in every goal. Marner's pass on the tying second goal was world class, stunning, incredible. And Marner set up the game winning goal. Both Matthews and Marner looked awesome last night until Matthews had a brain cramp and literally cost America the game. And the dressing room must be intense, because Marner must be like, dude, you left Connor wide open to attack me, giving me an empty lane to pass to Connor. If you do that in the blue and white, I don't want you on my team. So it's going to be quite interesting in that dressing room. Now, with that said, I like Carolina in the first period. I think the Leafs come out flat. I agree with you 100%. But I also like the under in this game, Carm. If you can get a 6, I think this is going to be a low-scoring hockey game. So I do like Carolina. I prefer them in the first period, and I like under 6, but I would not bet under 5.5.
It is that I think that number is a little tough right now. Like, I'm looking at WagerTalk's live lines, which, as you guys know, are absolutely free. You can head over to WagerTalk, click on live lines, click on NHL, and you can see the moves as they happen. And it's 5.5s across the board in the Leafs game. Although Circa and Bookmaker both have 6s and Caesars as well too, but shaded 25. 20 to 25 cents to the under in that one. So it's probably one you wait until game day if you're going to play it, because I think everyone normally waits until game day to play it. It's always not. I don't think it's always the best idea to wait to game day, especially if you're getting the number that you want. Play it. With that said, I released a 5% play in the NHL for tomorrow, and I released it 3 days ago
Wow.
because I wanted you guys to get the best number, and a lot of people took advantage of it. If the line moves, I will take it down. So maybe pick up a 3-day all access and get every single play for the next 3 days. Coming off a fantastic run in midweek in soccer with no NHL going on, hit a lot of 4% soccer plays. So let's keep it rolling right into the weekend. Prez, before we get to the best bets, it is time for our segment. So I'll let you talk to the guys in the live chat and get them to hit that like button. But it's time for the 6 and 60. Before the break, the 6-60 win 4-2. I've sent out the prizes to everyone that won one. Your prizes have gone out. So we had a snowstorm here, and our postal service obviously stopped working for about 3 or 4 days, but everything has gone out. So just check your mailboxes daily, and you should get some PuckTime swag. All right, Dan. With that said, this is going to be more than 60 seconds, but let's get it done. All right, Edmonton and Philadelphia. McDavid's sure to get booed in this one. Philly 6 points out of the bottom spot, and worst team, home team in the East. I'm taking Edmonton in regulation. Carolina and Toronto. I mentioned the Canes won the previous meeting 6-3, and they play a 200-foot game. I'm taking the Canes minus 120 against the Leafs, whose top 2 stars are coming back after the Four Nations. Anaheim and Boston. The break came at the wrong time for Anaheim. They were on a very good run. I think 6 wins in 7 games. But the Bruins have a tough 10-game schedule, and this is the easiest game before they hit that 10-game schedule. They need to beat the Ducks. Give me the Bruins in regulation minus 140. Ottawa and Montreal. Ottawa went into the break with 6 straight overs. The last 4 games between these 2 teams in Ottawa have produced 33 goals. Give me the over 5.5. Utah LA Kings. The Kings 12-1-1. Their last 14 at home. Hard to ignore that. Give me the LA Kings at that price. And Columbus and Chicago. The Hawks 22-6 with first period overs at home. Let's look for that trend to continue on Saturday. That's your 6-60. There are no loud cheers because I know I went over 60 seconds, but we got it out. Prez, let me ask you a couple of questions on this 6-60 once you unmute yourself. Are you ready for these questions?
I'm unmuted.
There you are. You're unmutable.
You got me.
Let me ask you, yes. So the Bruins, I talked about the Bruins in there, Bruins in regulation. Bruins play Anaheim. And now the Bruins are on the outside looking in. Here is the Bruins 10 games, because I always do this advanced scheduling, and I looked at the Bruins during this Four Nations break. They play the Toronto Maple Leafs, the New York Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, Carolina Hurricanes, Tampa Bay, and the Florida. And that takes us to like the 11th of March, which is at or around the trade deadline. Does this team make the playoffs?
No, they do not. Simple as that. Yeah, they do not make the playoffs. Better who does, Carm? Who are the final 2? Who's got the wild card in the East?
If you're asking me of the teams that I am, and this is not me pandering, to Johnny Detroit, but the Detroit Red Wings holding on to a spot right now with 61 points. This team has leapfrogged all the teams they needed to get into the top 8. Keep, as I said to Johnny, keep Ville Husso out of goal. Keep him in the minors, in the AHL. Yeah. And the Detroit Red Wings, I kind of like their schedule. So they need to put a run together to move up those standings. The Ottawa Senators, as well too. When you look, Prez, when you look at the Atlantic Division, you have the Leafs at 68 points, the Florida Panthers in first at 71, but then you have Tampa Bay at 66, Ottawa at 62, Detroit at 61. One of those 3 teams has to take third in that division and make it into the playoffs. So as much as you're focused on making the playoffs, focus on the big games when you play the Ottawa Senators, when you play Tampa Bay, and trying to win those ones, because those become 4-point games. So I'm going to go with Detroit. And the way it stands right now, Detroit, I'm not sure about Ottawa. They had such a great run and then sort of slumped a little bit. I still believe the New York Rangers are going to make the playoffs. So if you're asking me about 7th and 8th, I'm going to go Detroit and the Rangers. Maybe it's me being in love with the original 6 teams, but I'll go with the Rangers and the Detroit Red Wings. What are your thoughts, 7th and 8th?
The Rangers and the Detroit Red Wings. Man, are we on the same page today. I do think Ottawa and Detroit are going to duel, though, for that last spot. I think the Rangers get the 7th spot. And I actually think the New York Islanders are going to be there. I think that final spot will come down to Detroit, Ottawa, and the Islanders, and I think Detroit will get it.
Yeah, and if last year is any indication, we saw last year in the last 2 weeks of the season, it was teams leapfrogging teams for that eighth spot. The Pittsburgh Penguins, who traded Jake Gunsel, and you thought that's it, they're done. They went on a run right afterwards and put themselves in the playoff picture and then fall like a point short. So, and Washington gets in that final spot with a minus 40 goal differential. They don't have to worry about it this year. They're making the playoffs and could very well be the number one seed as well too. So we'll see. My final question to you before we get into our best bet segment: the LA Kings, 12-1-1. This team, their last 14 at home. Are they a threat in the Western Conference?
A threat to win the Stanley Cup? Absolutely not. I mean, not like the USA beating Canada, like that small a chance, like 1 out of 26 games or something. So no.
1 out of 26 games.
I don't know. When was the last time the USA beat Canada? What, like 400 games ago? It's like that kind of a thing. No, no, no. The LA Kings are
Okay.
definitely not a contender. I mean, come on. The LA Kings are going to end. Oh my God. Psh, psh, psh. Come on. Come on.
Are you certain? Okay. So I want to make a correction because when I had two notes here when I was talking about the Columbus and Chicago in the 6 and 60. I mentioned the Hawks 22-6 at home to first period overs. What I should have said is that it's the Columbus Blue Jackets who are 20-7 with the second best record behind the Chicago Blackhawks at 22-6. With first period overs. Chicago is plus 13.9 units. Columbus is plus 10.5 units. One of only 5 teams or 6 teams in the NHL that first period overs have been profitable with this season. So it is 20-7 for Columbus at home with first period overs, and they've been good with first period overs in general. Columbus at home, they're on a good run, so we'll see if that streak continues with the Blackhawks, who normally don't play well on the road, coming to town. So we'll see how that one goes. Prez, with that said, give me a show best bet and let us know what you have up at WagerTalk this weekend.
Well, I have one really strong NHL play up for tomorrow. It's already up for my clients now. I love this play. It is a money line play. I'm 64% in 2 years in these money line bets. And I'm also coming in on a 26-13 NHL run. So it's been really, really good for me. As for my best bet for the show, and I apologize for not giving Dan heads up, I like Ottawa in regulation against Montreal. And I would like to tell everybody that Montreal is going to be a heavy fade team moving forward. So that's it for me. Other than that, my basketball totals are gold. So check that out. But if I'm playing NHL, you guys got to play with me. That's just the bottom line. Carm, thanks for having me, brother. Really fun doing this.
No, listen, I appreciate you filling in for Andrew as well too. He's traveling back. There is no show on Monday, guys. We will be back on Tuesday. There's only 2 games on the Monday card, and I will do a free play video for both games and tweet those out, and you'll find them on my Instagram account too, which is Carmine Bianco WT. So you'll find them there and on the WagerTalk account. So there'll be plenty of spots where you can find the free plays for Monday, and TikTok as well too. I recorded a TikTok video yesterday prior to the game. Prez, you're still around.
Sir.
Do you know that I went to Von Mills, the hockey store there, and every single, which you'd expect anyways, Team Canada jersey that had names on them were sold out. I wanted to get a McDavid or a McKinnon, and I was going to give it away on the show, but wear it last night to the place where we went to watch the game, Arizona's, by the airport. But the only ones that were in stock, believe it or not, USA, Austin Matthews jerseys. They had plenty of them. And I'm not saying that as a joke, but you would figure no one's really going to go in and
No,
buy a USA one unless you're from the
right.
States and you're in Canada and buy an Austin Matthews, unless you're in love with Austin Matthews, which you may be. But
Yeah,
I know you're itching to say
I've
something.
always had a thing for balding men, Carm. That's why I love you so much. Um,
Uh,
yeah. The glare off of Austin's
the great
forehead
thing
is
is,
spectacular.
yeah, the best thing about being bald, Lawrence, is that when I go to a store and I'm shopping for supplies, I just get the 6-in-1 body wash. It washes your body, it washes your head, it washes your face. My wife spends about $150 in different hair care and stuff and products. 5.99, 5.99, 6-in-1 covers everything, man. Shower gel, face gel, it's all in one bottle. 5.99. More
Oh,
money for my pizza bets. Okay, anyways, I digress. We gotta finish off here, guys. My up at WagerTalk, a 5% play up in the NHL for tomorrow night. 7-3 thus far in 2025 with 5% plays across all sports. We're going to try and keep that run going with a winner on Saturday. The last one was an easy winner with the Nashville over. That one had like 9 goals in it. So we'll see if we can hit another play on Saturday. Going to be a big weekend card of soccer as well, too. A great run there. So pick up the 3-day all access and get all plays for the next 3 days. And let's have a big monster winning weekend. My free play is going to be the Chicago and Columbus first period over 20-7 for Columbus at home with first period overs. I'm going to ride that trend until it doesn't become profitable. It is right now second best record in the NHL at home to first period overs. So that is your free play, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already done so, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, join the ever-growing community here at Wager Talk. For myself, Prez, and our producer of the and fan of the NFL's Super Bowl winners, Dan Alexander. This is Puck Time. We will see you on Tuesday.